Hello and welcome to RT Ministries. My name is Dwayne and this is the Let's Talk portion. We're going to take a verse out of the Bible and we'll talk about it and discuss it. Romans 1:21. We're going to take that verse out and discuss it because I think it's pertinent for today, what's going on out there in the world today. The whole world. The whole world is becoming spiritual, but not in a godly way, in an ungodly way. It's becoming more satanic. It's becoming spiritual. People are all spiritual, everything but the truth. But this verse kind of explains why they're doing all the futile things out there. You know, people know there's a God. Let's talk, right? Come on. Everybody knows that there's a God out there. Doesn't matter if you call yourself an atheist, or you call yourself a witch, or you call yourself a Satanist, or whatever you want to call yourself. Or you're just I don't do anything kind of person. Everybody inside, God put it in the heart of man that there is a God. Everybody knows there's a God. So really there is no atheist either, because everybody knows there's a God. You can lie to yourself, you can say anything you want, but everybody knows there's a God. Right here in Romans 1:21 has a whole lot to say. The start of the verse says, "For even though they knew God." There you go. Bible says, even though they knew God. Who's they? That's the unsaved world. It's the sinners out there. Even though they knew God. Everybody knows God in their heart. You can't walk outside and look at a blade of grass and not know there's a God. You can't look at a tree and not know there's a God. You can't look up in the sky and not know there's a God. You can't look at the sun, an animal, a bug. You look at your own hands. Look in the mirror. Look at yourself. Somebody made that. It all comes from the mind of God. All creation came from him, and he's sustaining it all. We didn't just pop here. So for even though, and the Bible is true, even though they knew him, okay? People know there's a God, and they know they should be glorifying him. They know they should be worshiping him, and they know they should be repenting. This is why nobody has an excuse. We all know the Bible says there's no excuse for everybody, right? They're without excuse, for even though they knew God. So please remember that when you're talking to people. No matter who they are, what they say, understand in your heart when you're talking to them and know in your mind that they know there's a God. They come up with all kinds of excuses, but they know it. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God. They did not honor, or they did not glorify. They did not honor him as God, even though they knew there's a God. All the world knows there's a God. They did not honor him as God. They did not glorify him as God. They don't want nothing to do with him. They turned from the God, and they worship the created things rather than the Creator. And that's partly what the chapter 1's about. They worship created things and not the Creator. They did not honor him as God. People refuse to turn from their sin. People refuse to even say there's a God. Most people say there's no God out there. They refuse to honor him. They refuse to glorify him. Even though they know he's there, they refuse. This is how wicked the human heart is. May I remind you here that Jeremiah 17:9 says that the heart is desperately sick or wicked. And it's desperately sick and extremely wicked. Who can understand it, right? That's what Jeremiah 17:9 says. The heart is sick. Man's problem is the condition that he is when he's born. When you're born into sin. You're born a sinner. You don't have to sin to become a sinner. You're born a sinner. You don't have to teach a child to be bad. He already knows that. All children know how to be bad. They know how to be selfish. They cry when they want something. They scream. You know, you put two kids together, they'll fight or they'll take each other's toys. They know how to be bad. But you got to teach them to be good. Why? Because they're born in iniquity. They're born sinners. The darling little babies are sinners. And everybody falls in the same category. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him. This is the major sin. They did not glorify God. They did not honor God. People know that he's there and they refuse to come to him. Refuse to honor him at all. And, you know, most of America, most of the world now just say he doesn't exist. There is no God. we got it from monkeys, or we got it from Big Bang, or aliens dropped us off. I don't know what all the other stuff going on. There's so many things going on out there. It's almost unbelievable. They refuse to honor God, so they give all these ridiculous things like we are billions of years old. Really? Give me a break. All this stuff is ridiculous. And now the newest things are, aliens dropped us off. I think some of these people have been watching too many movies. So even though they knew God, they did not honor his God or give thanks. There's another thing, they didn't honor him, number one, or give thanks to him. Why give thanks to him? Because listen, God put you on this earth, he feeds you, right? You have a job because he give you the opportunity to get the job, the strength to do it, the materials to do it. You should be thanking God for everything you have. Instead, most people honor themselves. Say, I earned it, I worked for it, I did this, I did that. They refuse to honor God and give thanks to him. If you're healthy and you're working and you got a good job and you've got a family, you got a house, you got all, whatever you got in life, it's because God give it to you. So thank him for it. And I know I'm talking to some people out there that will refuse to thank him. They won't honor him or give thanks. Listen, if you're saved, give thanks to God because everything you have is from him. What happens if if an unsaved person knows there's a God and they refuse to honor him and refuse to give him thanks? What happens to that mind? What happens to that heart? Because the heart is the mind. The heart, when the Bible says the heart isn't the thing that pumps your blood. When the Bible mentions heart, it's your mind. What happens to the mind when they know there's a God, refuse to honor him, and refuse to give him thanks, but they became futile in their speculations? Okay? They became foolish in their speculations, like we come from monkeys. Like aliens dropped us off. All the foolish stuff that man comes up with, we come from apes. Really? I don't even know what to say on half the stuff out there. But they became foolish. They became foolish in their speculations. They became fools. They became open fools. There's open fools in most colleges and universities out there. They teach the stuff they know isn't true because in their heart, they know there's a God. And they know we came from God. And they know God made everything out there because they know that in their heart. It's the epitome of foolishness if you know in your heart that God made this and made you, and here you are teaching, evolution. When you know they can't even prove it, number one, and you know better. So the foolish heart was darkened. They became futile in their speculations, they became foolish in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. This is what happens to somebody who, remember, this is why the world is tumbling. Listen, you can't go outside of this world and not know the world is going down in the pits. My goodness, the last 20 years, it's amazing how much has changed the last 20 years. They refused to honor him, they refused to give him thanks, they became foolish in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were dark. Now they're dark. The people out there who are unsaved, they got foolishness in their head, and they're coming out with all this foolishness, and their minds are darkened. And then they go about doing everything their sinful nature wants to do, whether it's homosexuality, whether it's all the transvestites, all the fornication, all the adultery, bestiality, all the junk that goes on out there. Everything's dark, their mind's dark, and they're just doing what their body wants them to do, whether it's drinking, drugs, sex, going after money, whatever it is. And may I remind you, all that stuff, you see it on the news every day, people committing suicide and all this stuff. None of that stuff creates happiness. So what does this verse tell us? Let's talk. What does this verse tell us? Look, number one, everybody knows there's a God. Number two, when you don't honor God or give him thanks, even when you know he's there, this is what happens. They become futile in their speculations, they're foolish in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts get darkened. They go down, they can no longer, there's a lot of people out there that can no longer weigh whether something's good or bad. They're just in their sin. They're just wallowing in their sin, and that's what happens to us. Society in general, this is what happens. America used to be a lot different. 30 years ago, it used to be like 60 years ago. Now it's in a darkened state. It's just going down in the cesspool of sin now. But listen, everybody knows there's a God. There's changes that happen when you reject God. You get foolish thoughts coming out of your head, foolish ideas out of your mouth, and your heart is darkened. Meaning God lets you go. You know, if God lets you go, you get so dark that you can't turn back. And there's people in their sins now that there's no, everybody says, oh, there's hope. As soon as you're alive, there's hope. There's hope for everybody. Not true. The Bible does not teach that. Jesus said the Pharisees committed an unpardonable sin. There was no hope for them. There are people that there is no hope for out there. I don't know who they are. Only God does. I keep telling the gospel and I keep teaching the Bible. I'll let God deal with the ones with no hope. I don't know who they are. Clearly from Hebrews 10, there's people out there that there's no longer a sacrifice left for them. So don't be one of them. If you know there's a God and you haven't come to him, turn to him while you still can. All right, thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk. We'll see you later. Bye.